Hello and welcome to Lockdown Lauderdale, our virtual private view. Today we're coming from Jack Coleman's bedroom, lovely artist who's been a great friend of Lauderdale House for many years. I think we first met him when he came to a children's show. He's helped out as a volunteer, he's exhibited at Lauderdale, and we thought that was a great tie-up to give him an opportunity to show the work that he's been creating in lockdown in our virtual gallery. Sadly, not in the house again yet, although that will happen. The idea of the private view is that we're joined by Tim McArthur, who is a director, actor and writer who lives locally. And we've asked him to come in and ask all those questions that you might be a little bit too embarrassed to ask when you're at a private view, because you might feel silly. Tim doesn't mind, but he asks very good questions as well. I will disappear into the background. I will be here watching. I may bring up the odd share screen if Jack hasn't got the right work at hand, or if the work's far too big for the screen. Bear with us, it's the days of DIY technology. If something goes wrong, we'll do our best. And finally, yes, you can see the full exhibition on our website under the What's On Lockdown exhibition section. So welcome Tim, welcome Jack, and I am going to hopefully disappear.
And there she's disappeared. Good evening, everyone. She's gone. I'm Tim. Thank you so much for joining us here on Lockdown Lauderdale. And our artist tonight is Jack. Now, Jack, first question, what inspired you to become an artist?
Well, really, it's something I've always done, to be honest. Ever since I can remember, I've always drawn and painted. It's something I do naturally. But my father and my grandmother are both artists as well, so I grew up with that. Sorry, my internet is, yeah, okay. So I grew up with that around me all the time, so it was just a natural instinct, basically. Yeah.
And who inspired you then when you were sort of growing up and you were in that environment of other artists? What was your sort of main influences, would you say?
I think in terms of style, I actually looked to other artists, funnily enough. I didn't necessarily look at what my dad or grandmother were doing. I merely followed their sort of work ethic in a way, because they were very, I guess, just very strong in, you know, thinking how to create and then sell work and make it sort of a viable art form, basically. So I would follow their advice on that. But in terms of style, yeah, it was other artists, basically, historic art, you know, old masters or current artists. It's a broad range, really.
And in your opinion, obviously, you know, because you started recently, you've been doing a lot more painting. What do you think is what makes a good piece of art?
Wow. I think it has to, well, it really depends what it's trying to portray. I mean, it has to, I think, not necessarily be realistic, but something that portrays the essence of what it is, essentially, I think. And it has to say something different, has to say something new, but also be enjoyed as a piece in its own right as well, I think. That's very broad, I know, but
no, it's
broad.
Broad. Now, shall we have a look at your work?
Yeah. So I've chosen this one first. I have to line up the camera. So this is a very sort of early piece of my, I'd say it's sort of the genesis of the style that I do now, really. This I did about maybe 9 or 10 years ago, but I still have it, I still keep it. It's been in various exhibitions, but it's sort of always come back to me, and you know, it's not sold, and I've sort of kept it on, which is nice. And I have it now with me when I'm painting as a sort of reference, because I remember this as a piece that was a moment where it sort of clicked in my head, and I was like, I know what I enjoy doing now. There we go. I know what I like in a painting, and it's something that I enjoy looking at and I enjoy creating. So it's sort of one that, yeah, it sticks with me now, and I use it as a reference for paintings now.
What inspired you to do this?
I'm thinking back now, because this is part of A-levels. So that's A-level art. I think it was, I mean, as a whole, I'm inspired by landscapes mainly. I'm inspired specifically by the sort of hot, arid Mediterranean landscapes.
That we all know and love and miss so dearly.
Yes.
So if anybody really would like to buy this painting, if they're not getting their vacation to the Mediterranean, this would be one that they could purchase straight away to remind them of summer's gone.
Yeah. You get the summer holiday in a painting instead of actually flying there. Yeah, but it's, I can't remember the specific artist who inspired me. There's a sort of a few artists in the 40s, 50s and 60s. The main artist that inspires me is David Bonberg. He creates, and I'll go on to a painting in a minute where I'm sort of making actual references to his style. But I created this piece as a sort of response to his work and other artists like him. And it's sort of, it has the character, like I was saying earlier about a good piece of painting, it sort of has the essence and the character of what it's portraying without being a realistic representation of what that is. I really enjoy and I'm fascinated by the sort of bare bones of the landscape, as it were. So here it's colour and sort of the gesture and the sort of patchwork of the landscape. And I try and reduce that down to the bare bones, as I said. It was sort of like a preliminary piece. It's something, it was a practice piece, basically. I started with just, I think it was watercolour and coloured pencil. And it was going to be, I was going to turn that into a much bigger piece in oil, I think. But I never actually got around to doing the oil painting.
So this is pencil then?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is actually, yeah, that's the other thing. The style here and the technique I'm using here is something, again, I discovered at that time. And I like it because you can get the impact of the colour with the base. So I used, I think it was acrylic or watercolour I use either. So you can get the colour with that as a base, and then I build up the detail and the gesture over the top with pencil, with coloured pencil. You can get these really interesting textures, these different layers of colour. So something that's quite sporadic and free can actually become, can actually have quite a lot of depth. And I discovered all that doing this piece and a few others at the same time. And I've carried that same principle with me throughout my art, you know.
And in oil paintings, what is the easiest material to paint with? Is it oil or is it pencil, or what's the easiest?
Oil, they're very different basically, so I don't think you can really compare them, because I will use they're different but also similar. It's really weird. I use the pencil, the watercolour and pencil, as a preliminary, as a way to practice a bigger painting in oil, because actually it can act a bit like oil in the sense you can build up layers, you can create a lot of movement, you can make it very rich in colour, like this one, and you can also create precision. Obviously, they're completely different in the sense that it's quite flat, it's on paper, whereas the oil, you can build up layers. I might actually move on to the next one because it sort of illustrates how that is different. So this is actually the most recent one I did. I might actually have the next
Yeah, that's good. You can see that. Yeah.
How it almost is sort of full circle, and how I've kept this theme, how these sort of techniques keep running through into even my latest work. So with this one, this is oil, and the camera probably doesn't pick up, but the sort of texture of the piece and the oil, the thickness of the oil.
Mm.
So you can build that up, and it sort of creates more movement. It builds up more depth, basically. Yeah, you can see a bit better.
And in the time frame for you, when you either do the pencil or the oil, which takes the longest?
Again, I'll show you a pencil drawing in a minute that actually took a very long, well, a few that took a very long time, because they are less forgiving than oil. Because oil you can just go over the top, or you can wipe it out. Coloured pencil you can erase to a certain extent or go over to a certain extent, but really you have to slowly build up the colour and the layer from sort of soft to hard, and that takes. So that can be a long process if it's a complex complex drawing. Whereas with oil, you can actually do it with something like this. This is almost an oil sketch where you can do it in one go. So this was, I think, probably one or two sessions really, where you have. So with an oil sketch, you just apply the paint in one go. So you have to be really careful to not let it get muddy, because obviously oil dries slowly. So you have to really think about how you apply the paint and make sure it doesn't blur too much. But also it means you can blend quite a bit in one go because it is all wet. So it's like a fine balance. Mm. But if you get it right, you can achieve it. You can complete it quite quickly. So as I say, I think this was 2 or 3, maybe 3 sessions basically.
You said you were inspired by, your trips to the Mediterranean, and when you've painted this picture, did you have was it all from your memory, or was it from a photograph you took?
Yeah, so I normally do sketches on site when I'm there to get ideas and to keep ideas and sort of again the essence of that area and how I feel about it, and then I'll take photos as well for reference, and then I'll actually complete it back here. I don't often paint from memory or imagination, to be honest. It's normally a reference to a real place, because, as I said before, I want to portray the character of that place or the essence of that place, and that if it's not a real place, then I sort of feel like, yeah, that's not real, so it's not valid. So yeah, I prefer to try and portray a real place, definitely.
And that's called the Valley, and that's Portugal. Scotchio!
Yes, that's in Portugal. But yeah, this one is very similar to, or it's a reference to David Bonberg and his work, because he worked in Spain and he created, again, these sort of dramatic landscapes in oil, and he would, create huge brush strokes and blur paintings, and it becomes very, almost abstract, but not quite. You can see the reality of the place as well in there.
Brilliant. Should we have a look at the next one? Next slide, please.
What is the next one?
I've got the Umbrian landscape.
Oh, yeah. Keeping with that landscape theme, it's fine. Wherever that's gone. Yeah. Again, this was done quite recently.
Yeah. Now, where's Umbrian? Umbrian, what?
Sorry, that's in Italy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still in Italy.
It was still in Italy. We won't really leave. Well, maybe a bit later on.
That was good, because on my little sheet of all your lovely paintings here, I thought Catherine and I was to miss the sea on. I thought we were going to Cumbrian. But we're still in Italy.
Yeah, I've not thought of that. No, this is very much, this is too colourful.
Yeah.
But this is a different painting to what I've got here, to be honest. But they're both actually in Umbria, so that's fine. Again, the one on the screen actually is another early one where I realised how I could use pencil and colour and all this to create a picture to create a painting. So again, that's a very formative piece there, and juxtaposed against this one, which is again very recent. But with both of them, I, again, as I said before, I try and get the essence of a landscape in a picture, and sometimes that means sort of making it almost abstract and breaking it down to its essential parts and trying to get that essence of what that environment is. So I often take away any sort of sky in a picture, just because I enjoy experimenting with the perspective and making it all about the land. And it's almost a disorientating viewpoint as well, because you're sort of looking down, it's just a mass of land basically. And it almost makes this patchwork of colours and squares and shapes and all sorts. So it becomes, something different.
And obviously, you've said that landscapes are really important to what you paint. Is it a case of when you're coming up and you want to paint a new picture, is it a sense of you will physically go to a landscape on an excursion to have that motivation, or will you just be out for a walk somewhere and the idea will come to you?
I don't think I ever really stop looking. It sounds very arty, but it's you're always on the lookout for what interests you as an artist, so it never really switches off. Sometimes I will go out, if I'm on holiday or if I'm in these places, I will go out specifically and think, right, I'm looking for something to draw or paint. But quite often it's just being in a place and seeing something and just thinking, I want to portray that. That's something good enough to just get down on paper or canvas or whatever. And I want to put my style on it.
The work that you've shown us so far have all been sort of country landscapes. Have you ever thought about painting a city landscape? And if so, how different would that be as an artist? What would the challenges of that be to paint that?
City. I haven't done, not that I can remember anyway, specifically a city landscape. I think the challenges would be the draftsmanship of it, because if I'm not doing, a expressive pencil or painting drawing, then I enjoy accuracy and draftsmanship as well. I spend a lot of time in making sure, and some of the other ones you'll see, I enjoy making sure it's accurate piece. So got my train of thought.
No, sorry. Is it because obviously like what you've shown us so far is very colourful, and obviously as an artist, I think you've got it's all about colour, isn't it, and light. So is it probably maybe something to do with the city? It feels more of a oppressive.
Well, I think it's less organic as well. I think there are artists who do cityscapes and cities, or things happening in cities, like Edward Hopper and artists like that. But that's just not something that's ever interested me, because I want to portray the expanse of landscape. I want to portray nature away from human intervention, or with very minimal human intervention. Sometimes I'll have like a small house or something that I see in the landscape that's a small aspect of humanity, but I will often distance myself from that and just try and portray nature as a whole.
Very good. Should we have a look at the next one?
Yeah.
I don't know what the next one is. Catherine Ives. We should also say that, of course, we are on the internet, we are live, so hopefully all our connections will keep working. So if we do have any technical problems, do bear with us.
I'm not even sure what the next one is.
I've got Umbrian Landscape. Well, it's a surprise. Is this one?
Sunset in the Valley.
This is
Sunset in the Valley.
Sounds very Welsh.
Welsh? The thing about creating art in lockdown is I haven't been able to get to the framers. I'm so used to creating all my artwork and then having it all ready for an exhibition, all nicely framed up and mounted. So it's I feel a bit exposed, inviting everyone in to see
thank you so much for doing it. I was going to say,
presented.
Speaking of that, how important is it to find the right frame for the painting?
It is important, of course. Yeah, I tend to frame a piece well enough so that it's good for an exhibition, if that makes sense, because people will want to have a frame that matches with their house, with their decor. So often so if I was to spend a huge amount of money on framing and expensive frames and elaborate frames, then it might be that the buyer doesn't actually want that frame, so it's sort of counterproductive. But I will
I never knew that. I always presumed that the frame would be something that would counterbalance or would frame as in colour or texture or thickness of the frame. So I never knew that. Yeah. That's really interesting.
That's why I was a bit reluctant to reveal that, because I didn't know if it's sort of a trade secret, but
no, I find that fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
This one again, and this doesn't look very big. I mean, it looks
very small.
So therefore, with this, because this is colour pencil, isn't it? Colour pencil on paper. So how difficult is it? Because obviously some of those trees and things are very tiny. How difficult is to draw those?
Yeah. Again, as I said before, if I'm not making expressive oil paintings, I'm actually quite a detailed, precise person in terms of art. So I will be quite happy to spend a lot of time making sure it's correct, making sure the detail's there. And obviously, if it's in pencil, it's easier because you can just keep the pencil sharp, basically. And there's more control there. Whereas with a paintbrush, actually, it's quite difficult because it can be a bit more hectic with a paintbrush when it's all over the place. But
and what about the pressure? Because I know, I mean, I don't paint, but I remember even when I used to colour as a child, you'd be colouring in and all of a sudden your lead would break. Is it all, do you have to be really careful with the pressure of the pencil?
Yeah, you sort of get used to it. You get used to the feel of how hard you can press with certain pencils and how soft, and even different colours in a weird way. It's the same with oils as well. They produce different thicknesses, what works well with what colours work well with each other, what goes on top of what colours go on top of each other well, and how you can build up those colours. You just sort of develop that instinct for it, I think, basically. But yeah, there's a few like this I've done during lockdown that are smaller pieces. You'll see in a moment. I sort of swing between creating very small detailed paintings to very large expressive ones, and it just depends on my mood as to what I produce. But I enjoy these ones because they're small. You can kind of get up close and enjoy them in that sense, and enjoy the detail of them.
As an artist, have you found lockdown has creatively inspired you more than you would normally?
Absolutely. So I'm one of those artists that has always had a full-time day job, and then I paint in my spare time whenever I can. I find the time. So actually, having lockdown, I've actually changed jobs halfway through lockdown. But when lockdown first happened, I was on furlough, so I had all the time in the world to paint, which is actually an artist's dream. Well, it's my dream as an artist. It's a dream to have all that time to dedicate yourself to painting and drawing, and I did that, and I've produced a lot of work, which is really, really great. So it has, for me, it's been a dream.
Very good. And they're all available if anybody would like to buy them.
Yes, exactly.
Help a struggling artist.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at your next one.
Yeah. What is the next one, Catherine?
I've got fruit and flowers.
Oh, I'm not showing that one.
You're not showing that one. Very good.
But you can have it up here. So the other thing I do a lot of is, as I said before, I get a lot of the old masters. So this is a copy from an artist, I think a Dutch artist whose name I can't pronounce, but he was working in the 17th century, I think. This one I did very recently, and again, this is an oil sketch, so I did it in one sitting actually. Wow. So that was probably over the course of 2 hours. But actually, it's not as. I almost prefer that, because if you have the palette ready, if you have the colours ready, you can just go for it, and you just paint the colours. And so it's a copy of one of his works. So I have the image up in front of me, and then you just go for it. And again, you can't really see here, but again, it's quite thick paint. I just wanted to get those colours, and in a funny way, it does connect to some of the landscapes I do. It's almost just a block of different shapes and colours that come together to form almost something abstract, something separate to what it is trying to portray.
What's the next one you've got for us? Keeping Catherine on her toes now.
Yeah,
Minerva.
Trying to remember my
Minerva. Oh no, that's not Minerva, is it?
Oh yeah, this one. Here we go.
All right, do this one.
I don't know if that's
The Origin of the Milky Way after Tintoretto.
Yeah. So again, this is when I was talking about earlier, being quite precise in my work. This is a coloured pencil drawing. I did this before lockdown, actually, last year. I had a copying a lot of old masters. Yeah, so it's just a good exercise, I think. A lot of these ones, it's good as an artist to copy and look and replicate and observe and learn how previous artists have done their techniques and all these sort of things. So yeah, that was that. That was. It took a long time, that one. I got quite frustrated with it.
How difficult is it then to draw figures? Because obviously, you've shown us a lot of landscapes, but figures are.
Yeah,
must be much more challenging to make sure you get. And when you start drawing a figure, what part of the figure do you draw first? Is it the head? Do you go bottom to top or top to bottom, or is it the hand?
Yeah, this one as well. So I don't do that many portraits or figurative art, to be honest. It's something I don't consciously stay away from it. It's just something I don't do that often. I think I have to have a real connection with the person I'm drawing before I actually. And so sometimes it just takes a long time, to be honest, to actually complete a portrait of somebody. So I haven't done that many, but when it comes to copying other artists' work, it is easier because they've almost done most of the work, and then you just literally replicate, but in your own style, obviously, how they've done it. But in terms of actually the technique of it, you actually just sort of start all around. You block in, the area in a very loose way, and then you slowly you pick up bigger parts, the body, the torso, limbs, and work out positioning, and then you just slowly build up all that detail. So that's how I would do it, to be honest.
So there's no risk of sort of someone who might have been a bit more heavy than someone becoming a lot more thinner.
No, not quite.
What's the next one, please, Catherine?
Let's go to the Statue of Eros.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Bit of prescription there for you.
Lovely. So I've got a few I did like this a few years ago now, where I was, again, these are in charcoal, which I don't do that often. So
what is, for me, what's charcoal?
Charcoal. It's just, as a substance, it's basically just burnt wood. It just produces this black. They come in the form of sort of pencils or just sticks that have been produced, and you can just create a picture. And I enjoy it because of the contrast. You can create very dark areas, and then obviously leave the paper for the lighter areas and blend, and you can make it expressive or precise. I don't use them that often, but for these, I really wanted to try them out. There's another one as well. It's framed up. And these were statues I saw whilst I was in Rome. I studied there for a few months for a master's in art history, and obviously that involved a lot of walking around museums and galleries. And these ones I just really enjoyed because they're very damaged, obviously, and there's not much that you can tell, not much that says they're human. Almost worldly in a way, and I just want to portray that sort of weirdness, I guess.
Yeah, it's very interesting because with all your work so far, they're all of a similar size. Have you ever tried to? Because I love this one, the Statue of Eros, and originally I thought it was going to be a lot bigger than it is. Yeah. Have you ever tried to do a bigger painting?
Yeah. So I mean, this is framed up, so this is bigger. This is the other one. You'll see the canvases I've done. I have done some big canvases. I think the biggest one I did was actually a very similar painting of a statue. It was done in acrylic. I did that for an exhibition a few years ago. And that was a very big canvas. I don't prefer or, not like it. It just depends what the picture is and what my mood is, I think, really. Very variable, very unpredictable.
So you mentioned about the mood that you're in as well. How much, therefore, do your emotions affect you when you're painting? Or is it they're separate things?
Yeah, I have to be in a good mood, definitely. Yeah, I have to be, definitely inspired by something and feeling positive about it. I can't, I think there's this sort of stereotypical idea of a tortured artist sort of working away in a garret studio or whatever, and sort of all melancholy and all this sort of
Drinking
stuff.
Red wine.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Smoking lots of cigarettes.
Yes.
Oh.
So there's that sort of image of an artist, and it's then that they create their masterpiece or whatever. But actually, for me, it's actually just about looking and being inspired by something physical, something real, and wanting to portray that in my own way, interpret it in my own way. Not even so other people can see it. It's just a natural. As I said, I've always done it. As an artist, it's just something you do. You want to interpret and portray the world around you, and it just so happens you do it in your style and in the way that you like. So, if other people enjoy that, then that's a bonus.
Very good. Next slide, please, Catherine.
Let's see. Should we go to? Oh dear. I think it's Kew Gardens. It might not be. You can tell.
Oh yeah.
Is that Kew?
These are the bigger ones I was talking about. And these I did a couple of years ago. Goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, this was actually inspired when I went to Rome. There was an ancient fresco that had survived and was kept in a museum, sort of reconstructed. And it's a fresco of a garden for the Libya. And it was basically such an amazing thing because you go to a room, it's all the way around, all four walls, it's just garden, green, floor to ceiling, trees from sort of 2,000 years ago or whatever. And it's sort of a fully immersive experience into nature. So I wanted to try, obviously couldn't paint the walls in my house, but I wanted to try on a massive canvas, you know, try and create something of a similar effect. So obviously went to Kew Gardens because that's fantastic to see huge nature in London. And yeah, did this basically. This is an oil, and I really enjoyed this. It was quite different when I tried it, but I really enjoyed building up the layers and the almost the interactions of the different plants and textures and the movement to create something. Yeah,
it's very nice. Again, the colours, it's similar. It looks to be a similar palette of colours.
Yeah, I always gravitate towards the same colours, really, because that's what I'm familiar with. It's what I enjoy. There's a lot of blues in this one. Strangely enough, I don't actually like green that much. And I'm a landscape painter, but I don't really like green. I try to keep away from it. That has more green in it. Yeah. But I like to think, if this wasn't green, what colour would it be? If I'm painting landscape or this sort of nature. Running out of space. I like to experiment with the colour and think, what else could this be? But again, with this one, it's, yeah.
This one, isn't it, on the screen?
Yeah, yeah.
I find it really interesting you said about not liking green. Well, you can really see the blue in that.
Yeah, I will try and enhance the other colours before I put the green in. I don't know why. No real theory. I just don't. Yeah, I'd rather not have green.
Well, I think it's good as an artist to know what you like and what you don't like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if someone said, Jack, I really want you to paint a picture for me, but it has to be green, would you say yes or would you say no? Or would you say how much?
Yes. What's your price?
Yeah. So what's this? This one is plants at Q3. At Q3.
Yeah. So that is actually another preliminary. Just preliminary for the other big one that I just showed. Again, that's in watercolored pencil. Yeah, much the same sort of theory behind that, really. I don't have that here with me, so we can.
Can we do the next slide, please, Catherine?
Yep, I'm just working out where do we want to go. Let's have a look.
We can see what comes up.
Yeah, I'll surprise you, shall I?
Yes. Yeah. I prefer this, it's good.
Okay.
What am I showing? Okay.
Now, when I was looking through, this is one of my favourites again, because I'm a big fan of blue as well. And I love this one, and I really like trees. And it's an olive tree.
It is an olive tree, yeah. Again, from Cumbria, whatever you want. Yeah, again, this is a preliminary piece for a painting that I never completed in oil. Yeah, it's just a good way of getting down the essence of what you want to portray in a bigger picture. And sometimes that's actually all I need, is to get that down, and that satisfies me, and I don't need to do anything else with it. Or sometimes I want to explore it further and make it into a bigger painting or an oil painting or whatever. But yeah, I enjoy this one. Just an observation of a tree, and again, I enjoyed the shapes. I enjoyed how it spoke to me. I had an exhibition a few years ago that I called The Language of Nature, simply because I think there is sometimes a way that nature speaks to you and the way you can interpret it. And I think that's sort of what I wanted to sum up, and that's sort of what I want to portray in the work that I produce. It's sort of the way that nature and the landscapes speak to us as humans, and the way we interact with them, and the way we co-inhabit with these spaces.
And the one that's on screen now, that Catherine's showing, this is an olive tree as well, isn't it?
This is an apple tree.
An apple tree?
Yeah, so another tree, yeah.
I don't know my olives to my apples.
No. But this one I enjoyed, this one I saw, and it was at evening, and I really enjoyed it. And I just wanted to portray it. And often that's all it is. It's just enjoying a moment, either a tree or a view, and just wanting to portray it in your own way. And that's often, you know, sometimes people say, "Oh, what inspired you? What, what's, you know, is there some behind it?" But that's often it's just that, you know.
And this is oil as well.
This is oil as well, yeah. Almost, again, there's almost another abstraction to it in the sense that it's sort of, there's not much perspective. It's almost sort of blocked in areas. There's not much depth to it, and I just wanted to show the tree, really. I just wanted to show the colours, the light, the little light there was.
But you say that, but up in the top left-hand corner, there's the mountains and the hills, so it does give it a sense of...
Yeah, minimal.
Minimal.
Just the sense of distance and depth, but they're not detailed in any way.
Yeah,
bare bones of what they could be. Just to pick out the details. I don't think it's it. Pick out the details of the leaves and the contrasting colours in there and the tones. I really enjoyed. It's almost, you know, a tapestry effect in a way as well. Just this build up of colour.
So within the individual leaves and the texture, how long would it take you to do an individual leaf?
Oh, it's a dab. Just one dab.
Wow.
Although, some of them, it's a case of with oil. See, this is not an oil sketch like the other ones I'll show you. This is layered, so I'll do one layer and then I'll let it dry and then I'll go over with another layer.
And roughly how long does it take for a layer to dry?
It depends because you can thin the paint out and it dries quicker. But I often, the amount of medium I use to thin it out or make it, you know, change the texture, it often takes 1 to 3 days maybe to dry.
Wow.
I don't know if that's...
And is that frustrating as an artist if you've sort of got a vision in your head of something you've got to paint and then you have to wait 3 days for one layer to dry? Is that sort of...
To be honest, no, to be honest, because you know that's what you're dealing with and you paint according to that, really. And actually it gives you time. What I often do is I'll do what I want on a painting. I often do a maximum of 2 hours. I don't time myself, but that's often I'll paint and then I'll have enough of it after a couple of hours, and that's just how it is. So I always sort of stick to a session of 2 hours painting one picture. So I'll do that and then I'll put it to one side and I won't look at it, and actually it gives it time to dry and it gives me time to look at it with fresh eyes in 2 or 3 days. So it's actually a natural thing, I think. It actually works quite well as a technique.
Natural process, yeah. That would drive me mental because I just have to get things done. I'd be dreadful.
Yeah, but also
I'd be scared that the idea my original vision wouldn't be there.
Lose that momentum. Yeah, I understand what you mean. And sometimes I do, as I showed you before, those old sketches, they are done in 1 or 2 sessions. Yeah, so there's this one as well. This is another pencil drawing that I've been doing a lot of recently. This is this is the first drawing from the UK. This is local to me in Islington. But this is where lockdown was interesting. It forces you, because I basically ran out of material because I obviously paint Mediterranean landscapes. I haven't been able to get to the Mediterranean this season. So it forced me to think, right, what is it that I want to draw here? What is important to me? What do I want to portray? and it actually makes you, as you know, as an artist, think outside the box, be more creative, you know, which is really interesting. So I have enjoyed that challenge during lockdown, and this was something I created a couple of months ago now, in the sort of first few weeks of lockdown, I think. Just an observation. I was just walking locally, and I thought, I like that. I want to recreate it. And again, it's a lot of the same principles of, obviously nature, colour, looking at the basic elements of composition of a landscape, of nature, and thinking what's important here, what do I want to portray.
And I think all your paintings are very reasonable price as well, and that Highbury Field one is £120. How, as an artist, this is a business question, because I find this really interesting. How do you put a price tag on your work?
It's difficult, to be honest.
Because
with each painting,
when you go and see people's artwork, and you think, you know, £5,000, or you think, you know, as you say, £120. But is it how long you've spent doing the picture, or
it's an element of that.
It's the materials that go into as well, the oil paint and things.
Yeah, it's different factors. Yeah, oil, obviously, it's more because it costs more. It takes longer on the whole. Pencil drawings, it sort of depends on sometimes even just the attachment I have to the picture. I know it sounds quite crude, but it's sometimes, you know, I think 9 times out of 10, I'll do a picture, a painting, and I'll be quite happy for it to just go. Not because I don't like it, but because it's almost like I've done this now. I've experimented with this or investigated what I want to do with this, and I don't need it anymore. You know, it can go and have its own life somewhere else, enjoyed by somebody else. So often it's just down to practicality.
And have you painted anything that you just thought, I'm not selling that? That is too precious. I'm just going to hang on to that for me to enjoy that process.
It doesn't happen that often, to be honest. I think there's only one picture that I don't even have here, actually. It's back with my parents, and it was one I did during my GCSEs, and it was just a big, I think I've had it in an exhibition along the way at some point, but it was a big oil painting of different condiments, and I called it brands. It had like a Marmite, a ketchup, and it's very sort of GCSE type art, I guess. It's very pop art as well, like that sort of thing that excites kids of that age as a art form. But it's always just hung up, and I've never really wanted to sell it. I think I really enjoy it. I think it's a good piece as well. It's not that it's, you know, it's not sellable. I've never wanted to let it go. I don't know why. And also the one that you can't quite see behind here, there's one hanging behind here. It's of a friend. A nude portrait of a friend. I can show you at the end. I've never wanted to get rid of that. I think there's some pieces that I've enjoyed the process too much and learned a lot from it, and I'm not sort of ready to give it up completely. But I guess, as I say, it's only happened 2 or 3 times maybe out of the hundreds of paintings I've done. So, and even if it's, you know, the case that I'll want to hold on for it for a while, it's often the case that at some point I will want to get rid of it and let it have its own life. So I'll enjoy it for some time.
That's not bad going, keeping only 2 or 3 of your children.
Yes. Yeah, the others have flown the nest. I don't need them.
Flown the nest. Go on, get out the door.
Yeah.
But I'm keeping you 3. Yeah. Do we have any more Catherine Ives?
We do. Let's go for... So I don't know whether this was painted looking for at-home inspiration.
Yes. So there's 2 very similar ones. I really like these ones. They're quite small. So these again lockdown paintings I did recently, again on that small theme. They are again on the theme of nature, lack of green. It's They are, houseplants. This is a Greek vase that I have, and I thought I'd use it in a picture because it sort of ties up my themes that I enjoy in painting of nature and history. So I thought I'd put it in the spotlight for once and enjoy that.
Very good. And when you obviously, you know, it's a vase, and there's no different technique with painting the circumference of it to make it. How do you make it look circular?
Actually, with great difficulty, because I don't enjoy. As you'll notice that these are both still lifes, as it were. I don't enjoy doing still life. This lockdown has forced me to do it because obviously I couldn't really get out and paint wide landscapes being in North London. But I enjoyed it, and it has, but yeah, I almost tried to make them not look like still lifes as well. Tried to make them seem organic pieces. I think with still life, it sort of reminds me of being at school and being forced to paint a pot and a whatever, you know,
banana.
Book. Yeah, it's sort of forced and annoying. I never really enjoyed it. So I've always tried to resist it, whereas some artists, obviously, it's their thing and they really enjoy it. But so I was actually glad to have this and have a go at it and succeed, I think.
Catherine, I've just flashed something up on the screen.
I flashed an old pigeonnier.
Yes.
So what is an old pigeonnier? Not an old pigeon.
It's a pigeon. Where do pigeons live? I can't remember now.
Pigeon huts?
Yeah.
West.
Yeah.
West? I don't know. That's a really interesting question. Where do pigeons live?
Oh, you know those buildings they used to have. Is it?
It's Dovecote.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, I'm not very good with my bird knowledge, so.
But in the old days, they used to have them so they could keep pigeons. But this is, I mean, you wouldn't know, to be honest, but I thought it was interesting. It's, my aunt and uncle live in the south of France, and I went and visited last year, and I did that. I did this. This was in their garden, basically. And yeah, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed playing around. This I did during lockdown, finished it during lockdown. But I enjoyed playing around with the abstract and the application of the paint. Making in some areas almost no detail at all, just really loose brushstrokes. I really, as an artist who always tends towards making things more detailed, I always have to try and think consciously about making things less detailed. I always try and push myself to be more expressive, I think. So this was a good challenge, and I enjoyed this one. And I think this is one, if it doesn't sell, I will keep hold of it for a longer period of time, just because I enjoyed the process. I have enjoyed how it looks, and I think it would be one like the one I showed first. It will be a reference point for me in the future. And
this is oil as well. And you said
this is oil. Yeah.
You started this one in the south of France.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so it's all on board this time. I don't know how many have been on board, but I think painting on board is quite interesting because you get a slightly different effect to canvas. It's less rough and more precise in a way. But yeah, I with this one I enjoy. Just the looseness of it, the abstraction of it.
It's very nice.
So I think the river is the last one, unless I've missed anything.
I feel like that might be the case.
There we go. apart from the one on your wall. But...
Oh yeah. Reveal in a minute. Yeah. So this is the one I was talking about earlier. Again, this is completely unframed. I feel very exposed right now.
Why does that
make normally all be ready for an exhibition? I wouldn't normally show this.
Why does that make you feel exposed? Because they don't have a frame?
Because they're not exhibition ready. I'm always, as I said, I'm business minded. It's got to be precise, all in place, all ready to show in the way that it should be. As an artist, you're creating things in the studio, and then normally you don't want people to see that process. I don't normally like to show people paintings in progress unless the progress is good.
That's good. But I mean, you mentioned earlier that it's sort of up to the person who buys the painting what frame they would frame it in. So therefore, does that really matter then? If you're not because the frame that goes with the painting.
Yeah, because it just needs to be exhibition ready. So it just needs to have a mount and a frame, so they can see it as it should be, and then they can imagine their own frame over the top if they want to change it for their own decor or whatever. Yeah.
When you have an exhibition, Jack, before your private view, what sort of things go through your mind?
It's mainly just...
do you get nervous?
Excitement. No, not really. It's mainly excitement because paintings spend a lot of the time on the easel or stacked up in the studio, or in my case, my bedroom or somewhere in my house. But then when they all come together, normally in the final hour before an exhibition, you actually see them how they should be seen for the first time, and you see them in a new light. And actually, it's part of the journey of being an artist and creating the painting. It's from the inception to execution to framing to hanging. It's the final piece, the final product, and you suddenly see how they will interact with each other, how they look on the wall, how they will look in their future homes. So it's just pride, really. It's just enjoying that.
How important is the layout of an exhibition?
I'd say it's quite important for me, just because as the artist who has created all the work, you sort of do become a perfectionist over it. So you want to make sure that they all set each other off nicely. There's some that go well together, like the statue. The exhibitions that they have been in, they've gone as a pair because they complement each other. They inform each other. I've done one, and then I've done another one, so that shows the journey of that idea. Or in just terms of sizes, or to balance well, I think. So it is important to think about it.
Very good. And do you have one more to show us, or?
Yeah.
Is that the one on the wall?
The one. It's not on the list. It's not for sale, but
it's not for sale. And this is the one that you're not going to keep. That you're going to keep.
The one I'm going to keep, yeah.
And there's an artist's easel.
Yes. So it is a nude.
Oh.
Don't know if I have to disclaim that. Yeah, it's just a friend I painted a few years ago. It's been in a few exhibitions, but I've never sold it. I've just enjoyed it.
And did she lie there for you to paint her?
Well, I did sketches and drawings. I did preliminary pieces, and then I did the final piece on the easel, basically away from her. I think there's almost sort of too much pressure. I can't really. That's why I don't really often do portraits. It's sort of too much pressure when the person's sitting in front of you.
And obviously, when you paint someone nude, because obviously, when people are naked, it's quite a vulnerable thing to do. As an artist, how do you reassure them that it's okay to be naked?
I think I will always, for me, when I'm observing, when I'm doing life drawing or whatever, you forget it's a human in a way. You sort of dehumanize them in a nicest possible way. You're just breaking them down into light, dark, tones, shapes, shades. You're not thinking about, I mean, the first few seconds you're thinking, oh God, there's a naked person in front of me. But then it just breaks down into how can I portray this, and how you translate that. So I think it's that, but you say that to them, that you keep them in that creative process to reassure them.
And was she happy with herself naked?
She was, yeah. Good. She's over the moon with it.
Good. It's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Jack, for showing us your work. They're all very, very beautiful, and the colours as well are really cool. Just one final question. One of the paintings early on of the landscapes, you had the shadows of the trees on the field. Is that something you decide straight away which way the sun is shining when you paint a landscape?
Yeah, you sort of have to, because otherwise it can get a bit, there can be a few discrepancies if the shadows are in different directions and things like that. So you want to work out quite early on, because it does determine then the colour palette and the colours and the light and the darks throughout the picture. So you want to work out what the light is hitting and what the shadow is hitting as well.
So is it like, do you have like a checklist then when you do a landscape of the way the sun is shining, the time of year? Is it all those things you subconsciously think about without even starting painting? They're all just instant.
Yeah, I think that's just being an artist, I guess. It just that's how it is as you're doing it. It just naturally, as the pencil or the paintbrush hits the paper, that's what you're thinking in the back of your head, and it just translates into the painting.
Well, Jack Coleman, thank you for being an artist with us on Lockdown Lauderdale.
And thank you, both of you, so much. Thank you, Jack. It's absolutely fascinating. Thank you, Tim, for asking brilliant questions. Really, really, really fascinating. I think it's the sort of thing that people are a bit shy to ask very often, and it's really lovely to hear. I'm just going to mention briefly, you can see all of Jack's work on the website, Lockdown Exhibitions, under the What's On section. If you'd like to buy a piece, not only are you helping a struggling artist, but also you're helping Lauderdale House, because a percentage commission will come to us. We're a charity, and at the moment we have absolutely no income because the house is closed, apart from cafes now open as a takeaway. But again, we need to get them up and running and get them going. So if anybody would like to make a donation to Lauderdale, go to our website. You can see a donate button. We'll be absolutely overjoyed and incredibly helpful to us. Exciting to be part of the Highgate Festival online. Thank you, both of you, so much. I think we should raise our glasses to say cheers and cheerio.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, both of you, very much.